Marcus Stone lives on the streets of Manhattan. Once a military medic, now he sleeps in alleyways with only his old backpack and the memories of his past life. Alexandra Hayes has everything money can buy: penthouses, private jets, and a billion-dollar company. But she's never felt more alone. One rainy night, their worlds collide when Marcus finds her cornered by two vicious pitbulls in a dark alley. Without thinking, he puts his life on the line to save her. She's never met anyone like him, a man who would risk everything for a stranger. He's never met anyone like her, a woman whose eyes hold both pain and kindness. But Alexandra is hiding something that could change everything. Will Marcus still trust her when he discovers who she really is? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Dawn crept over Manhattan's skyline as Marcus Stone adjusted the straps of his weathered military backpack. The familiar weight against his shoulders was one of the few constants left in his life. Inside, organized with military precision, lay the tools of his former trade: gauze, antibiotic ointment, medical tape, supplies he'd carefully accumulated from various free clinics and outreach programs. The October chill bit through his layers of clothing as he emerged from the relative shelter of the 14th Street subway station. Other commuters streamed past, their eyes carefully avoiding his, as if homelessness might be contagious. Marcus had long since stopped noticing. 3 years on the streets had taught him the art of invisibility. "Hey, Doc." The greeting came from Jimmy, another veteran who'd found himself adrift after service. "Got anything for this cough?" Marcus knelt beside his friend, who huddled in a nest of cardboard and newspapers. The ritualistic motion of opening his backpack triggered memories. The weight of body armor, the metallic smell of blood, the controlled chaos of battlefield triage. He pushed the thoughts aside and focused on Jimmy's wheezing chest. "You're not making this easy, brother," Marcus muttered, pulling out a handful of cough drops and his last pack of cold medicine. "You need real medical attention." Jimmy's laugh turned into a hacking cough. "Yeah, and I need a beachfront property in Hawaii. Same chances." Marcus's hands moved with practiced efficiency as he checked Jimmy's pulse, noting the irregular rhythm. His veteran's ID card, tucked into a side pocket of the backpack, caught his eye. A reminder of who he used to be. Captain Marcus Stone, Special Forces combat medic. Now just another face in the forgotten army that haunted New York's shadows. "The shelter on 23rd has a clinic today," Marcus said, helping Jimmy sit up straighter. "I'll walk you there." "Always trying to save everyone, Doc. That's what got you here in the first place, ain't it?" Marcus didn't answer. Jimmy wasn't wrong. The incident that ended his military career, disobeying direct orders to evacuate in order to save a local family caught in crossfire, played through his mind. He'd saved 4 lives that day and lost everything else: his career, his pension, his purpose. The morning unfolded like so many others. Marcus made his rounds, checking on the regulars in his informal practice. A diabetic elder who needed her blood sugar checked, a teenage runaway with an infected cut, a pregnant woman who'd been avoiding the hospital. His supplies dwindled with each stop, but he couldn't turn them away. The weight of his backpack lightened, while the weight in his chest grew heavier. Near noon, he found his usual spot outside a busy deli. The owner, Mr. Katz, was one of the few who saw him as a person rather than a problem. Sometimes there would be a sandwich waiting, payment for keeping troublemakers away from the storefront. "You look tired, son," Mr. Katz said, emerging with a steaming cup of coffee and half a pastrami on rye. "The nights are getting colder." Marcus accepted the offerings with a nod of thanks. "I manage. The VA finally called back about your appeal?" "Still pending." The words tasted bitter, like the dregs of too many disappointments. As the afternoon sun cast long shadows between the buildings, Marcus counted his remaining supplies. 3 bandages, half a tube of antibiotic cream, a handful of aspirin. Not enough. Never enough. But somewhere in this city of millions, someone else would need whatever help he could offer. He thought of the soldier's creed, still burned into his memory. I will never leave a fallen comrade. These streets were his new battlefield, and everyone here had fallen in one way or another. His fingers brushed against his old ID card again. Captain Marcus Stone might be gone, but the oath he took remained. As long as he had his backpack and the skills inside his head, he could still serve, still make a difference, even if the only recognition was the quiet thanks of those society had forgotten. Night approached, and with it came the familiar search for a safe place to sleep. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new people needing help, new reminders of everything he'd lost. But for now, Marcus had his backpack, his memories, and the knowledge that even at his lowest he could lift others up. Sometimes, he reflected, that had to be enough. Alexandra Hayes stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her Park Avenue penthouse, watching the sunrise paint Manhattan in shades of gold. In her hand, a manila envelope contained the final divorce papers. Her marriage dissolved in perfectly typed legal prose. 3 years had passed, but she still kept them close, a reminder of why trust came so hard now. Ms. Hayes, her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. The board meeting starts in 30 minutes. Thank you, Claire. Alexandra tucked the envelope into her desk drawer, next to the wedding ring she couldn't bring herself to sell. The irony wasn't lost on her. A tech billionaire who still kept paper documents, holding onto physical reminders of her biggest mistake. The elevator ride to the executive floor was a transformation. Each descending floor stripped away Alexandra. Hayes, the woman who cried herself to sleep in a too-large bed, and assembled Alexandra Hayes, CEO of Hayes Innovation Technologies. By the time the doors opened, her armor was complete. Louboutin heels, Chanel suit, expression carved from marble. The quarterly projections are exceptional, her CFO announced as she entered the boardroom. Stocks up 12%. Alexandra nodded, taking her seat at the head of the glass table. And the new AI initiative? Ready for announcement next week. Press is already buzzing. She let the meeting wash over her, playing her role perfectly. They saw what they expected. The Ice Queen, the tech genius, the woman who'd built a billion-dollar empire from a startup in her garage. None of them knew about the divorce papers in her desk, or how she spent her evenings walking through the grittier parts of the city, seeking something real in a world that felt increasingly artificial. There's one more thing, her head of PR said, as the meeting wound down. The Robinson Foundation's charity gala is next month. They're expecting you to attend. Alexandra's carefully maintained expression didn't flicker. The gala meant seeing Richard, her ex-husband, with his new wife. The thought made her stomach turn. I'll be there. Back in her office, she pulled up the Foundation's website. The familiar mission statement mocked her. Bridging the digital divide. She'd written those words herself, back when she believed technology could solve everything, back when she thought love and success were compatible. Her phone buzzed with a text from Richard. Looking forward to seeing you at the gala. We should discuss the Foundation's direction. Alexandra's fingers traced the edge of her desk drawer where the divorce papers lay. The Foundation had been their shared dream, bringing technology to underserved communities. Now it was just another battlefield in their ongoing war. Another place where Richard tried to erase her influence. The afternoon sun found her in a small coffee shop in the Lower East Side, far from the corporate towers and charity galas. Here, no one recognized the billionaire CEO. Here, she could watch real people living real lives, unburdened by the weight of empire or expectation. Anything else? The barista asked, not knowing she could buy the entire block with her pocket. Change? No, thank you. Alexandra savored the simple interaction, the lack of agenda or artifice. As evening approached, she made her familiar walk through the city's changing neighborhoods. Each step took her further from the glossy world of tech conferences and board meetings, closer to something she couldn't name, but desperately sought. Her phone kept buzzing. Emails, meeting requests, social obligations. A reminder popped up. Foundation document review tomorrow. She silenced it all, letting the city's pulse replace the digital heartbeat that usually dictated her life. The divorce papers waited in her desk like a curse, a reminder that everything she'd built rested on ground that could crumble. Tomorrow, she would be Alexandra Hayes, tech visionary and philanthropist. Tonight, she was just a woman walking alone through a city too big to care who she was, carrying wounds too deep to show. The rain had started suddenly, turning twilight Manhattan into a blur of neon reflections. Alexandra pulled her designer jacket closer, having wandered farther than usual into the warren of streets beyond her normal route. The familiar weight of her phone felt useless. Her driver was across town, and ride-share apps showed no cars nearby. A sound made her pause. Somewhere ahead, metal scraped against concrete. Marcus heard it too from his sheltered doorway. The aggressive growl of dogs, followed by a woman's startled gasp. His military training kicked in before conscious thought. Threat assessment, position triangulation, response options. The scene unfolded in the narrow alley. Two muscular pitbulls, no collars, backing a woman against a chain-link fence. Their posture screamed aggression, raised hackles, bared teeth, low growls that meant business. "Hey!" Marcus's voice carried the command. Presence from his combat days. The dogs turned, giving Alexandra a moment to press herself flatter against the fence. One dog lunged. Marcus had a split second to decide, retreat to safety or commit to engagement. The soldier in him calculated odds. The medic in him saw only someone who needed help. He stepped forward, using his backpack as a shield. The first dog's teeth tore into the canvas as Marcus swung the pack in an arc, buying time. "When I say run," he called to Alexandra, "head for the street." The second dog circled, looking for an opening. Rain made the pavement slick, dangerous. Marcus kept his center of gravity low, the way his hand-to-hand combat instructor had drilled into him years ago. Alexandra's voice shook. "I can't, they're blocking." "Trust me." Marcus dropped the shredded backpack, his precious medical supplies scattering across wet pavement. The larger dog charged. Marcus met it with a controlled fall, using the dog's momentum to roll it past him. His arm erupted in pain as teeth grazed flesh. The second dog darted in, but Marcus had created an opening. "Run! Now!" Alexandra bolted. Her heel caught on uneven pavement, and she stumbled. The smaller dog turned to chase. Marcus grabbed its tail, stupid, dangerous, but effective. The dog whirled, jaws snapping. He felt hot breath, then searing pain as teeth found his forearm. His fist connected with the dog's nose, forcing it back. Alexandra had reached the alley entrance. "Help!" Her cry echoed off brick walls. "Somebody help us!" The larger dog circled back, and Marcus knew he was in trouble. Blood ran down his arm. His backpack was in tatters, and he'd lost tactical advantage. But Alexandra was almost safe. Just a few more seconds. A car horn blared. Headlights swept the alley. The dogs hesitated, then fled into the shadows as a taxi pulled up. Marcus sagged against the wall, breathing hard. His arm throbbed, but training took over. Check for arterial bleeding. Assess wound depth. Calculate infection risk. "Oh my God!" Alexandra rushed back, her own jacket torn. "You're hurt. We need to call an ambulance." "I'm fine." Marcus tried to push himself upright, but his vision swam. Blood loss, maybe shock setting in. "Just need to—" He didn't finish. Alexandra caught him as his knees buckled, her designer clothes getting soaked with rain and blood. She smelled like expensive perfume, something elegant and foreign to his world of street grime and survival. "You're not fine." Her voice held authority, surprising strength. "And I'm not leaving you here." The taxi driver had gotten out. "Lady, he's bleeding all over my seats." Alexandra's response cut like steel. "I'll buy you a new car if necessary." "Hospital? Now!" Marcus tried to protest, but the world was going fuzzy. He was vaguely aware of being helped into the taxi, of Alexandra pressing her ruined jacket against his wound. The contrast was absurd. her perfectly manicured hands holding destroyed designer silk against his street-worn skin. "Stay with me," she commanded, and Marcus found himself wanting to obey. "What's your name?" "Marcus." His training screamed at him to stay conscious. "Marcus Stone. I'm Alex." She didn't offer a last name. "You saved my life." The taxi swerved. Through traffic, Marcus focused on breathing, on the pressure of her hands keeping his blood inside his body. "The dog's gone. We're safe." "You made sure of that." Her voice caught. "Why did you do it? You could have been killed." Marcus tried to smile, tasting copper. Someone needed help. The simple truth hung between them as city lights blurred. Past. Alexandra stared at this man who'd risked everything for a stranger, whose blood was now soaking into designer silk, worth more than he'd seen in years. For a moment, all the barriers of class and circumstance fell away, leaving only the elemental truth of one human being choosing to save another. "The hospital," Marcus managed. "I can't." "Don't worry about anything," Alexandra said firmly. "I'm handling it." As consciousness faded, Marcus was struck by the oddest detail. Her torn jacket somehow made her look more real, more human than all the polished wealth she wore like armor. Then darkness took him, and his last thought was of scattered medical supplies in a rainy alley, waiting to help no one. The emergency room's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Marcus's unconscious face. Alexandra paced the private room she'd somehow arranged with a few quiet words and a black credit card. Her ruined jacket lay draped over a chair, its torn silk and bloodstains a testament to how quickly life could change. The doctor had just left after delivering his report. Multiple lacerations, no major arterial damage, high risk of infection. "He's lucky," she'd said. "The wounds could have been much worse." Lucky. Alexandra's fingers brushed her Mont Blanc card holder, containing the business cards she never gave out lightly. Hayes Innovation Technologies CEO. The weight of her full identity pressed against her like a stone. Marcus stirred, his eyes fluttering open. Confusion crossed his face as he registered the hospital room, then Alexandra. "How?" "Don't try to move," she said quickly. "The doctor just finished with your stitches." He looked down at his bandaged arm, then at the IV drip. Panic flashed across his features. "I can't afford—" "It's taken care of." Alexandra kept her voice firm. "All of it." Marcus struggled to sit up. "I don't accept charity." "It's not charity, it's gratitude." She moved closer, studying this man who'd risked everything for her. "You saved my life. Anyone would have—" "No." The word came out sharper than intended. "Anyone would have called 911 and watched from a safe distance. Anyone would have filmed it on their phone for social media. You put yourself between me and those dogs without hesitation." Marcus fell silent, and Alexandra saw him taking in her appearance. The expensive watch, the tailored clothes beneath the ruined jacket, the air of someone accustomed to power. She could almost see him calculating the distance between their worlds. "Thank you," he said finally, "but once I'm cleared, I'll handle things from there." Alexandra pulled out one of her business cards, but stopped short of offering it. The embossed letters caught the light. Alexandra Hayes, Chief Executive Officer. To give it to him now would change everything. Instead, she took out a plain note card and wrote down her first name and phone number. "At least let me know you're okay, and if you need anything, I don't." His voice was gentle but firm. "I've managed this long." A nurse entered with discharge papers and instructions for wound care. Alexandra watched Marcus listen with military attention to detail, noting every requirement. When the nurse mentioned follow-up appointments, his expression didn't change, but Alexandra saw his hands tighten on the bed sheet. "The prescriptions," the nurse continued, "have already been filled. They're at the desk." Marcus started to protest, but Alexandra cut. "And please let me do this much." Their eyes met, and something passed between them. An understanding, perhaps, or a question neither was ready to ask. For a moment, Alexandra saw herself as he must see her, a wealthy woman trying to ease her conscience with money. But it was More than that, something about him, about the unflinching way he'd stepped into danger, made her want to help in ways that had nothing to do with guilt. "I lost my backpack," he said suddenly. "My supplies. I'll replace them." "You don't understand." His voice held frustration. "People depend on those supplies. People who won't go to hospitals or clinics, who can't." Alexandra's fingers tightened around her business card. With one gesture, she could solve all his problems. A job, an apartment, a new start. Her influence could transform his life overnight. But something held her back. The memory of his courage, his dignity even now demanded more than charity. He deserved the truth, but she wasn't ready to give it. "I'll bring supplies to the alley," she said finally. "Tomorrow, better ones than before." Marcus studied her face, perhaps sensing the thing she wasn't saying. "You don't have to." "I want to." She gathered her torn jacket, conscious of his gaze. Sometimes helping isn't about having to. Sometimes it's about choosing to. She left him there, her business card burning a hole in her pocket, her heart heavy with unspoken truths. In her world of corporate takeovers and billion-dollar decisions, she'd forgotten what it felt like to make a real difference. A homeless veteran had just reminded her, and she didn't even have the courage to tell him her full name. Alexandra's morning coffee grew cold as she stared at the Wall Street Journal spread across her desk. Her own face looked back at her from the technology section. Hayes Innovation Technologies revolutionizes AI healthcare. The article praised her company's latest breakthrough, but her eyes kept drifting to the photograph's background. The same alley where she'd nearly died, visible through her office window during the photo shoot. "Your 9 o'clock is here," Claire announced through the intercom. "Cancel it." Alexandra grabbed her phone, pulling up the map where she'd marked the location of her encounter with Marcus. "Cancel everything until noon." The city felt different now. Every alley held memories of growling dogs and rain-slick pavement. Every homeless person made her wonder if they knew him, if they were part of the invisible network he helped with his medical supplies. Across town, Marcus flexed his healing arm, testing the stitches. The morning sun warmed the concrete steps where he sat, watching well-dressed professionals hurry past. A discarded newspaper caught his eye. Something about artificial intelligence and healthcare. He thought of the mysterious woman from the alley, wondering if she worked in one of these gleaming towers. 3 days had passed since the attack. The replacement medical supplies she'd promised had appeared exactly where she said they would, far better quality than anything he'd managed to scrounge before. The gesture touched something in him he thought he'd lost. "Looking better, Doc," Jimmy called from his usual spot. "Heard you went and played hero." Marcus smiled faintly. "News travels fast. Lady came by yesterday asking about you. Fancy type but different. Gave out new blankets, didn't make a show of it." Alexandra. It had to be. Marcus pictured her walking these streets in her expensive clothes, trying to understand his world. The thought both warmed and troubled him. In her office, Alexandra minimized another spreadsheet and opened a new browser tab. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before typing, "Captain Marcus Stone, Special Forces." The results were sparse, but telling. Commendations, a ceremony photo, a brief mention of his discharge under disputed circumstances. "Ms. Hayes," Claire's voice again. "The board is asking about the charity gala preparations." Alexandra closed the browser. "Tell them I'm reviewing proposals." Her eyes drifted to the newspaper article again, to the quotes about revolutionizing healthcare access. An idea began to form. Marcus spent his afternoon as he always did, making rounds to those who needed help. But now he carried better supplies in a new backpack, able to do more than just basic first aid. Each person he helped reminded him of her. Alex, she'd called herself. No last name, no details, just kindness wrapped in mystery. "Market's up again," a banker type announced loudly into his phone as he passed. "Hayes Tech's new AI system is going to change everything." The name tickled something in Marcus's memory. He'd seen it somewhere recently, but the connection slipped away as a young woman approached, cradling her arm. "I heard you help people," she said softly, "when they can't go to doctors." Back in her office, Alexandra stared at the latest proposal for the charity gala. The theme was Bridging Divides. Ironic, given how her encounter with Marcus had shown her just how wide those divides really were. The newspaper article mocked her from the desk. Hayes Innovations promises healthcare for all. Her phone buzzed. A text from Richard. Saw your latest press. Always the savior of the masses. Some things never change. She thought of Marcus, actually saving people without press releases or stock options. The contrast made her previous accomplishments feel hollow. A new email popped up. Preliminary budget proposals for the AI healthcare initiative. Alexandra opened it, then stopped. All these millions of dollars being spent on artificial intelligence, while a homeless veteran with real intelligence and training could only help people with donated supplies. "Claire," she called, "get me everything you can find about veteran. Medical professionals, specifically those who've been denied benefits or fallen through system cracks. Research for the gala." Alexandra looked at the newspaper one last time, at the carefully crafted image of corporate philanthropy. No, something new, something real. As evening approached, Marcus found a small card tucked into his new backpack. The handwriting was elegant, but unpretentious. "Same place tomorrow, 7 p.m., if you're willing." He should say no. The distance between their worlds was too great, the imbalance of power too stark, but he remembered the way she'd pressed her. A ruined jacket against his wounds, how her carefully maintained facade had cracked to reveal something genuine underneath. The newspaper page blew past his feet, settling in a puddle. The headline dissolved in the water, but the questions remained. Who was she really? And why did she keep coming back to his world when she so clearly belonged to another? 7 o'clock found Marcus standing outside the agreed meeting spot, a small coffee shop wedged between a laundromat and a phone repair store. The evening crowd had thinned, leaving only a few customers hunched over laptops. Through the window, he could see Alexandra already waiting, her corporate armor replaced by jeans and a simple sweater. She looked up as the bell announced his entrance, relief flickering across her face. "I wasn't sure you'd come." "Neither was I," he admitted, taking in how she'd chosen a corner table away from windows, how she'd positioned herself to watch the door. Military habits he recognized from his own hypervigilance. "Coffee?" She gestured to the untouched cup across from her. "I wasn't sure how you'd take it." "Black is fine." He sat carefully, conscious of other patrons' sideways glances at his worn clothes. The cup was heavy stoneware, not disposable, a small detail that spoke of Alexandra's choice to make this real, not just a quick charity meeting. "How's the arm?" Marcus flexed it demonstratively. "Healing clean, the supplies you left, they've helped a lot of people. I'm glad." She wrapped her hands around her own cup, and he noticed she'd removed her expensive jewelry, trying to minimize the gaps between them. "I wanted to thank you properly, and to understand." "Understand what?" "Why you do it. Help people who can't pay you, risk yourself for strangers." The question hung between them, steam rising from their cups like the barriers they were trying to navigate around. Marcus took a slow sip, buying time to frame his answer. "In the military, things were clear. Mission objectives, chain of command, who to help and how. Coming back, nothing was clear anymore. But helping people, that's always clear. Someone needs medical care, you give it. Someone's in danger, you step in." Alexandra's fingers tightened around her cup. "Even if it costs you everything?" "Especially then." He met her eyes. "What about you? Why walk alone in dangerous areas when you could afford safer options?" She looked down at her coffee, watching ripples form as her hands trembled slightly. Sometimes the safest places feel the most dangerous. All those expectations, obligations, everyone wanting something. And in the dangerous places, I'm just another person. No one's special. Marcus studied her, seeing past the careful casualness of her outfit to the tension beneath. "But you are someone special, aren't you? The way you handled the hospital, the quality of those supplies." Alexandra stiffened. Does it matter who I am? You tell me. You're the one who arranged this meeting. The coffee shop's ambient noise filled the silence between them. A barista called out an order. Someone laughed at a nearby table. Alexandra's cup made a soft sound as she set it down. She paused, choosing her words carefully. I wanted one conversation that was real, where helping someone didn't involve boards of directors or press releases or hidden agendas. Is that what your life is usually like? You have no idea. A bitter smile touched her lips. Everyone either wants something or is afraid I want something from them. Even charity becomes a transaction. But not with me. Marcus kept his voice neutral, though something in his chest tightened at her vulnerability. You had nothing to gain by helping me. You didn't even know who I was. And now, she gestured at the coffee shop, the simple cups between them. Now you're here, still not asking for anything. Maybe I am, he said quietly. Maybe I'm asking for the chance to know who you really are, not just who you pretend to be. Their eyes met over the coffee cups, and for a moment, all the careful walls they'd built around themselves wavered. Alexandra opened her mouth to speak, but her phone buzzed insistently. The screen lit up with a name, Richard, Foundation Urgent. The spell broke. She silenced the phone, but her shoulders had tensed again, corporate armor sliding back into place. I have to go. She stood, leaving her coffee half-finished. I'm sorry. Alex. Marcus's voice stopped her. Thank you for the coffee, and for trying. She looked back, conflict clear in her eyes. Same time next week? He nodded, watching her hurry out into the evening crowd. The coffee cups remained on the table, one empty, one half full, like the truths they'd shared. Coffee meetings became a weekly ritual. Each time, Alexandra shed more of her corporate persona, and each time Marcus found himself sharing pieces of his past he thought he'd buried forever. Tonight, she'd suggested a small park instead of the coffee shop, away from curious eyes and expectations. My father owned a repair shop in Queens, Alexandra said, watching the sunset paint the city gold. She'd pulled a worn photograph from her wallet. A young girl in oil-stained overalls, grinning beside a middle-aged man beneath a faded shop sign. He taught me everything about computers, about fixing things. We didn't have much, but we had each other. Marcus studied the photo, seeing traces of the woman beside him in that grease-smudged child. What happened? Cancer, fast and aggressive. The medical bills. She took the photo back, touching it gently. That's when I started coding. Built my first program to help manage his appointments, medications. It grew from there, into Hayes. Innovation Technologies. The name slipped out before he could stop himself. Alexandra froze. You know, I've seen the articles. Put the pieces together. He kept his voice carefully neutral. Alexandra Hayes, tech genius, billionaire philanthropist. She stood abruptly, pacing the small patch of grass. This is why I didn't tell you. Everything changes once people know. Has anything changed in the last 30 seconds? That stopped her. She turned, really looking at him. Doesn't it bother you, the difference in our circumstances? You mean that you went from a repair shop in Queens to a penthouse while I went from special forces to sleeping rough? His smile held no bitterness. Life's funny that way. Alexandra sank back onto the bench. When my father died, I promised myself I'd build something that mattered, something that would help people like him. Instead, I built an empire of shareholders and PR statements, and married into another empire. Marcus asked gently, Richard. She practically spat the name. He was on my board, seemed to understand my vision, until after the wedding, when he tried to take control of the company, called my charitable initiatives bleeding heart distractions. The photo trembled in her hands. Marcus resisted the urge to steady them. The divorce was ugly. He got the foundation we built together, turned it into a tax shelter. I got to keep the company, but sometimes I look at myself in those magazine covers and don't recognize who I've become. I see who you are, Marcus said quietly. The girl from Queens who still walks dangerous alleys, trying to find something real. Who brings medical supplies to homeless vets instead of just writing checks. Alexandra's laugh caught on something like a sob. A billionaire and a homeless veteran. We sound like a bad Lifetime movie. I prefer to think of us as two people who've lost their way, trying to help each other find it again. She looked at the photo once more. The happy girl who believed in fixing things, in making a difference. I have resources, influence. I could help you get everything back. Your benefits, your medical license. I know. He met her gaze steadily. But that's not why I'm here. Then why are you? Because every week you show up as Alex from Queens, not Alexandra Hayes, the CEO. Because you understand what it means to lose yourself trying to help others. Because... His words cut off as shouts erupted nearby. A group of teens were harassing an elderly man, trying to grab his shopping cart. Without discussion, they both moved. Alexandra's voice carried unexpected authority, while Marcus's presence radiated quiet strength. The teens scattered. As they helped the man gather his scattered belongings, Alexandra watched Marcus calm him with the same gentle efficiency he used with all his patience. This was who they really were, not their titles or circumstances, but their actions. "Thank you, both of you," the old man said, clutching his cart. "Not many people would stop." "We're not many people," Alexandra replied, and caught Marcus, hiding a smile. Later, walking him back to his usual spot, she pulled out her phone. "Let me at least get you a room tonight. It's getting cold." "Alex," he touched her arm gently. "You can't save everyone." "I know." She looked at the photo again, at the girl who once believed she could fix anything. "But maybe we can save each other." The city hummed around them, indifferent to the quiet revolution of two people choosing to see past their differences to something deeper. Alexandra tucked the photo away, but its truth lingered. Sometimes the longest journeys led right back to who you always were. Marcus noticed the whispers first. People on his usual rounds pointing, staring at their phones, then at him. Jimmy tried to warn him, waving a crumpled magazine, but by then it was too late. The story had broken. Tech billionaire's secret savior. Alexandra Hayes' homeless hero revealed. The headline screamed across every newsstand in Manhattan. The cover photo showed them in the park, Alexandra with her family photo, Marcus listening intently. A private moment turned public spectacle. His phone, a basic flip model Alexandra had insisted he take for emergencies, buzzed repeatedly. Messages from unknown numbers offering exclusive interviews, book deals, reality shows. The simple life he'd built helping others was evaporating in the harsh glare of public attention. Alexandra burst into his usual alley, her composed facade cracking. "Marcus, I'm so sorry. Someone must have followed us, taken photos. My PR team is trying to contain it." "Contain it?" He handed her a tabloid someone had thrust at him. "Billionaire and beggar, a modern fairy tale." The story inside painted him as either a calculating opportunist or a helpless charity case, depending on the paragraph. "I never wanted this," she said, her voice breaking. "I thought we were careful, meeting in quiet places." "Who leaked?" "It, Alex." "Really?" His voice was quiet, but she flinched. "Because the story seems to know a lot about my military record. Things only someone with resources could find." "You think I did this?" Hurt flashed across her face. "After everything?" A sleek town car pulled up and Claire jumped out. "Ms. Hayes, the board is demanding an emergency meeting. The stock is fluctuating and Mr. Harrison is threatening to call a confidence vote." "Not now, Claire. And Mr. Thorne, your ex-husband, is giving interviews about your pattern of unstable behavior and questionable associations." Marcus watched Alexandra's face shift, corporate armor sliding into place. The transformation hurt more than he expected. "You need to go," he said quietly. "Handle your empire." "Marcus, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" "How this fits into your company's image." Another heartwarming story about Alexandra Hayes. "Saving the less fortunate?" "That's not fair." Her eyes glittered with tears she wouldn't let fall. "You know me better than that." "Do I? Because right now, I'm not sure I know you at all." More cars were arriving, media vans, photographers. Alexandra's security team materialized, forming a barrier between them. The physical separation felt like a metaphor. "Miss Hayes," Claire pressed. "The board." "Give me a minute," Alexandra snapped, then softened. "Marcus, let me help. I can get you somewhere quiet, away from this circus." He looked at the gathering crowd, at the contrast between Alexandra's designer suit and his worn jacket. All the invisible lines they'd pretended didn't exist were suddenly stark and undeniable. "I didn't want help when you were just Alex from Queens," he said. "I sure as hell don't want it from Alexandra Hayes, tech billionaire." "I'm the same person." "Are you?" "Because the Alex I knew wouldn't have let her PR team run background checks on me." Her silence was answer enough. Marcus shouldered his backpack, the one she'd given him, now feeling like a brand of ownership. "Your board's waiting," he said. "Wouldn't want to damage shareholder value any further." "Where will you go?" "Does it matter? As long as it makes for a good press release." The words were cruel, and he saw them land. Part of him wanted to take them back, to acknowledge that this wasn't entirely her fault, but the bigger part needed to escape. From the cameras, from the story they were trying to write about him, from the way Alexandra's world was swallowing his whole. "I care about you," she said softly, for his ears alone. That was never part of any PR strategy, maybe. But caring isn't the same as respecting someone's dignity. More media were arriving. Someone was live streaming on their phone. Alexandra's security team was getting nervous. "Ms. Hayes," Claire tried again. "The market opens in 10 minutes. Marcus turned away first. "Goodbye, Alex, or Alexandra, whoever you really are." He walked away, hearing the chaos erupt behind him. Reporters shouting questions, cameras clicking, Alexandra's voice rising in controlled corporate tones. The weight of his backpack felt different now, heavy with memories of coffee shop conversations, and shared confidences that seemed naive in retrospect. A newspaper box caught his eye. The business section showed Alexandra at a charity gala, poised and perfect. Below it, a smaller headline: "Hayes Technologies announces major mental health initiative for veterans." Even their private conversations had become corporate strategy. Every genuine moment between them now felt calculated, shaped into someone else's story about redemption and social responsibility. His phone buzzed again. "Alexandra, please, it's not what you think." He turned the phone off and dropped it in a donation box. Somewhere behind him, cameras recorded the gesture, probably turning it into another chapter in their manufactured fairy tale. But Marcus wasn't a character in Alexandra Hayes' story of philanthropic awakening. He had his own path to walk, his own people to help. The city swallowed him, and this time he made sure no one followed. 2 weeks passed. Marcus had moved to different streets, different routines, but Alexandra's world kept finding him. Headlines tracked his absence like a missing person case. Hayes's hero vanishes. The search for Manhattan's guardian angel. Each story missed the point entirely. He found the note on a Tuesday morning, tucked into his new backpack while he slept. Not typed on corporate letterhead or sent through intermediaries, but handwritten on simple-lined paper, the ink smudged in places. "Dear Marcus, I've written this letter 100 times in my head. Corporate Communications wants to draft a joint statement. The board wants damage control. My PR team has 3 different strategies prepared, but none of that matters because I'm not writing as Alexandra Hayes, CEO. I'm writing as Alex, the girl from Queens, who still misses fixing cars with her dad. You were right. I did have you investigated, not for PR, but because I was scared. Scared of trusting someone again after Richard, scared of feeling something real in a world built on appearances. But in protecting myself, I hurt you. I turned our friendship into headlines. I'm sorry, the Veteran Healthcare Initiative wasn't strategy. It was inspired by you, by the way you help people without asking for recognition or reward. I wanted to do something that mattered, like we talked about in the park, but I should have told you first. I've spent 2 weeks attending board meetings and charity galas, playing my part. But all I can think about is how empty it feels now. How the coffee shop conversations with you were more real than any corporate victory. I can't undo the media circus, but I can tell you the truth. I miss my friend, the man who saved my life and then showed me how to make it mean something. If you're willing to talk, I'll be at our bench in the park. 7 p.m. No security, no PR, no Alexandra Hayes, CEO. Just Alex from Queens, hoping her friend will give her a chance to make things right. Alex P.S. I'm not having you followed. Jimmy told me where to find you. He said I should grovel. Marcus read the letter twice, feeling the paper's weight, seeing the crossed-out words and revised sentences that proved its authenticity. A memory surfaced. Alexandra showing him her father's photo, tears she wouldn't let fall. Evening found him walking. Familiar paths. The media frenzy had died down, leaving only occasional photographers hoping for a follow-up story. The park was quiet, autumn leaves crackling under his feet. She was there, alone as promised, wearing jeans and a worn NYU sweatshirt. No designer labels, no corporate armor. Her hands fidgeted with a paper coffee cup, his usual order from their weekly meetings. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said, not turning. Neither was I. He sat beside her, accepting the coffee. They watched. The sunset paint the city gold, like so many evenings before. The healthcare initiative, he finally said. Tell me about it. Mobile clinics, staffed by veteran medical professionals, focused on homeless outreach. No paperwork, no questions asked. She paused. The kind of help you give, but with real resources behind it. And the board approved this? I didn't give them a choice. Sometimes being CEO has its advantages. A ghost of a smile touched her lips, though Richard is trying to block it through the foundation. Marcus took a slow sip of coffee. You're really doing this? I'm trying to be the person my father would be proud of. The person you helped me remember I could be. She met his eyes. I won't apologize for having you investigated. My world makes trust complicated, but I am sorry for not being honest about it. You deserved better. And now, what do you want? My friend back. No cameras, no stories, just coffee and conversation and trying to make a difference in our own ways. The city hummed around them, indifferent to the quiet moment of reconciliation unfolding on a park bench. Marcus thought of her letter, of crossed-out words and honest mistakes. Coffee's getting cold, he said finally. Alexandra smiled, understanding the acceptance in his words. I know a place nearby. If you're willing to be seen with a disgraced billionaire, lead the way. Alex from Queens. The mobile clinic was Alexandra's idea, but the execution was pure Marcus. A converted food truck stocked with medical supplies and staffed by veteran healthcare workers. No logos, no corporate branding, just a simple sign. Free medical care. All welcome. He'd insisted on that part. You're sure about this? Alexandra asked, watching him organize supplies in the truck's narrow space. Being the medical director means paperwork, credentials. Dealing with the VA taught me patience. He adjusted a shelf of bandages. Besides, your lawyers are handling the red tape. She leaned against the doorframe, turning something over. In her pocket. There's one more thing. Marcus recognized her nervous gesture, the same one from their coffee shop meetings. Alex, she pulled out a key, simple brass, nothing fancy. The clinic needs an official address for licensing. There's an apartment above it, small, but Alex, just listen. She set the key on a shelf. You'd be doing me a favor. Someone needs to be on site. Monitor supplies, handle emergencies. You're already doing the work. This just makes it official. Marcus picked up the key, its weight familiar, yet strange, after years of carrying everything he owned on his back. You're trying to give me a home and make it sound like a job requirement. Is it working? He thought of Jimmy, still coughing in his cardboard shelter, of the diabetic elder who needed regular monitoring, of all the people who'd come to depend on his help. The rent is part of your salary. Alexandra's voice held no room for argument. You're running a medical facility, Marcus. That comes with compensation. And benefits? His attempt at humor didn't quite hide the emotion in his voice. Full healthcare, naturally. I do own a healthcare tech company. She smiled, then grew serious. This isn't charity. It's not even just business. It's... She paused, searching for words. Redemption, he offered quietly. For both of us, maybe. The key felt warmer in his hand. Through the truck's window, he could see the small apartment above, one bedroom, basic furnishings, a view of the street where he'd spent so many nights. Different from the corporate penthouses and luxury condos that filled Alexandra's world. I had them keep it simple, she said, following his gaze, though I did insist on decent water pressure. Marcus laughed despite himself. Priorities. There's a coffee maker, too, for our meetings. Planning to make this a regular stop on your corporate rounds? No. She met his eyes. Planning to make it a regular stop on my friend rounds. If that's okay? The distinction mattered. He closed his fingers around the key, feeling its edges press into his palm. What about the press? You're bored. The press is focused on Richard's latest scandal. Apparently, misappropriating foundation. Funds is more interesting than a healthcare initiative. Her smile turned wry. And the board, let's just say implementing actual change, is surprisingly good for shareholder value. Marcus looked around the clinic, at the organized supplies, the clean instruments, the chance to help people properly instead of just patching them up. Then at the key in his hand, offering more than just shelter. One condition, he said finally. Name it. The clinic stays independent. No corporate takeover, no Hayes Tech branding. Already in the contract. She pulled out a folder. Along. With guaranteed funding for 5 years. Renewable, based on community impact, not profit margins. He shook his head, smiling. You thought of everything. I learned from the best. She touched his arm briefly. You taught me that helping people matters more than looking good while doing it. The key slid home in the lock smoothly. The apartment. Door opened to reveal a simple space bathed in afternoon light. A medical reference library lined one wall. A desk held a computer for patient records. Everything necessary, nothing excessive. Welcome home, Dr. Stone, Alexandra said softly. Marcus stepped inside, his backpack suddenly feeling lighter. Through the window he could see his old alley, the streets he'd walked for years. But now, instead of looking up at the buildings where others lived their lives, he had a place of his own. A place to help others. A place to start again. Coffee? He asked, turning back to Alexandra. I thought you'd never ask. The tabloids arrived with the morning coffee delivery. Marcus spread them across the clinic's intake desk, each headline more sensational than the last. Hayes's homeless hero, the truth behind their secret romance. From streets to sweethearts. Tech Queen's new love. Rags to romance inside Manhattan's most unlikely couple. The bell above the clinic door chimed. Alexandra entered, already looking battle-worn despite the early hour. The paparazzi found your coffee shop. We might need a new meeting spot. I saw. He held up one tabloid, featuring a grainy photo of them sharing coffee. Apparently we're secretly engaged. Congratulations to us. If you think that's bad, wait until you see the business press. She pulled up a news alert on her phone. Hayes Technologies stock fluctuates amid CEO's personal distractions. Personal distractions? He raised an eyebrow. Is that what I am now? To my board? You're a PR nightmare and a potential security risk. She sank into a chair. To Richard and his lawyers, your ammunition for trying to take control of the foundation. And to you, their eyes met across the desk. Before she could answer, Jimmy burst in, wheezing worse than usual. Doc, they're offering money for stories about you too. He collapsed into a coughing fit. Had to fight off 3 reporters just getting here. Marcus grabbed his stethoscope. Forget the reporters. That cough's getting worse. But even as he examined Jimmy, more patients arrived with similar stories. Reporters stalking the neighborhood, offering cash for insider information. Photographers camping out across the street. The quiet community he'd served for years was becoming a media hunting ground. This has to stop. Alexandra said after the fourth interruption. "They're preventing people from seeking care. Can't your PR team handle it? They want to. Their solution is to make us official. Controlled interviews, approved photographs, a carefully crafted narrative about corporate responsibility and social redemption." Marcus's hand stilled on Jimmy's chest. "And what do you want?" "I want..." She stopped watching him work. "I want this. The clinic. Our coffee talks. Things that matter instead of things that look good in press releases." Jimmy looked between them. "You two need to figure this out. Doc's too good at his job to let some tabloid vultures ruin it." The day progressed in a blur of patience and camera flashes. Every time Marcus looked out the window, another photographer had joined the crowd. By evening, even the local news vans had arrived. "Got a plan?" he asked Alexandra as she prepared to leave. She squared her shoulders. "Maybe, but you might not like it. Try me. We give them what they want. One interview, one photo shoot, but on our terms." She held up a hand as he started to protest. "Not about us, about the clinic, about veteran healthcare, about the real story here. You think they'll go for that? They'll go for whatever Alexandra Hayes gives them exclusive access to." Her smile turned sharp. "Might as well use my notorious reputation for something good." Marcus considered it. No personal questions. No romanticized street to success story. Just the truth. The clinic, the need it serves, the people it helps. "And us?" Alexandra's expression softened. "We tell them we're friends. Two people who discovered they wanted the same thing, to make a real difference." "Is that what we are? Friends?" The question hung in the air, weighted with unspoken possibilities. Through the window, camera flashes caught the moment like lightning in a bottle. "We're whatever we choose to be," Alexandra said finally. "Whatever. We decide matters more than what they write about us." Marcus nodded slowly. "Set up the interview. You're sure?" "No," he smiled. "But I trust you. Just remember, no corporate takeover, no Hayes Tech branding." She touched his arm briefly. "I remember." After she left, Marcus sorted through the tabloids again. The stories were ridiculous, but beneath the sensationalism lay a kernel of truth. Something was growing between them, something that defied easy categorization or media-friendly narratives. He pinned one headline to the clinic's bulletin board. "Hayes and Hero, a modern fairy tale." Not for its accuracy, but as a reminder that sometimes the most important stories were the ones you couldn't sell to the press. They could only be lived, one quiet moment at a time. Alexandra was sorting through old files in her office when she found them. A bundle of letters tied with faded ribbon. Richard's courtship correspondence, back when she'd believed in his promises of shared vision and social change. The paper felt brittle now, like the dreams they'd contained. Her phone buzzed, a message from Claire. "Richard's here, says it's about the foundation." Before Alexandra could respond, her office door opened. Richard Thorne hadn't changed. Same expensive suit, same practiced smile that never reached his eyes. "Hello, darling." He closed the door. "Love what you've done with the place. Very charitable." Alexandra slipped the letters into her drawer. "What do you want, Richard? Can't I check on my ex-wife's welfare? Especially given your recent, interesting choice in company. The clinic isn't foundation business." "No?" He settled uninvited. Into a chair. "A medical facility serving the homeless, staffed by veterans, sounds exactly like foundation business. Our charter specifically mentions healthcare initiatives. Your foundation supports golf tournaments and tax write-offs." "Our foundation," he corrected. "Or did you forget you're still a board member?" The letters seemed to burn in her drawer. She remembered writing her own responses, full of hope about changing the world together. "I've seen the books, Richard. The administrative expenses that somehow eat 90% of donations." His smile tightened. "Careful, Alex. Unlike your new friend, I know where all the bodies are buried." A knock interrupted them. Marcus stood in the doorway, tension radiating from his military-straight posture. "Sorry," he said, not sounding sorry at all. "Claire said you might need these reports." Richard's smile turned predatory. Dr. Stone himself, I've been following your work. Quite a change from sleeping in alleys. Richard, Alexandra's voice held warning. No, let's be direct. Richard stood. You're running an unlicensed clinic with an expired medical license, recruiting homeless veterans for unauthorized treatment. One call to the medical board. His license is current, Alexandra cut in, as is the clinic's certification. Thanks. To your legal team, no doubt. But the Foundation's board might question such personal use of corporate resources. Marcus stepped fully into the office. Is there a point to these threats? Threats? I'm offering opportunity. The Foundation would be happy to take over the clinic's operations, provide proper oversight, professional management. You mean shut it down and sell the building, Alexandra said. Property values in that area are rising. It would be fiscally responsible. Marcus moved closer to Alexandra, instinctively protective. Richard noticed, his smile widening. How touching, the street knight defending his lady. He picked up a magazine from Alexandra's desk, their clinic interview. Tell me, doctor, has she shown you her old letters? The ones where she swore I was her soulmate, her partner in changing the world? Get out! Alexandra's voice was ice. The board meets next week. I'd hate to see your pet project become a liability. Richard straightened his tie. Think about my offer. Professional distance might be best for everyone. After he left, Alexandra sank into her chair, hands shaking. Marcus closed the door. Want to talk about it? She pulled out the letters. I was young, idealistic. The Foundation was supposed to help people like my father, make healthcare accessible, give people dignity. And Richard saw an opportunity, my company's resources, my connections. She laughed bitterly. My naivete. Marcus read the tension in her shoulders, the way she wouldn't meet his eyes. What aren't you telling me? The Foundation's bylaws. Any new healthcare initiative needs board approval. She met his gaze finally. Richard has the votes to shut down the clinic. Can he really do that? Not to Hayes Technologies projects, but if he proves the clinic is personally motivated rather than corporate. She gestured helplessly. The board is already nervous about our friendship. Marcus absorbed this. Then we give them what they want. Professional distance. No more coffee meetings, no public connection. No. Alexandra stood, suddenly fierce. I lost the Foundation to his games. I won't lose this too. This? She stepped closer. The clinic. Our work. You. The letters lay forgotten on her desk, ghosts of past mistakes. But here was something real, something worth fighting for. Richard's used to people backing down, Marcus said quietly, playing by corporate rules. A slow smile spread across Alexandra's face. Good thing we know some other rules. Street rules. Better. She touched his arm. Queen's rules. The takeover documents landed on Marcus's desk like a bomb. 50 pages of legal language disguising a simple truth. Richard was making his move. The Foundation's letterhead topped each page, with sticky tabs marking where Marcus was expected to sign away the clinic's independence. He's offering you a consultant position, Alexandra explained, pacing the small office. Full benefits, significant salary. You'd stay on as medical director, under Foundation control. Marcus flipped through the contract, with a non-disclosure agreement about our, what did he call it? Prior personal association. Alexandra's voice was bitter. He's trying to buy your silence and my isolation in one move. Outside, the clinic waiting room was full. Word had spread about the potential takeover, bringing in waves of worried patients. Jimmy had organized an informal petition, gathering signatures from the community. What happens if I don't sign? Richard claims the clinic violates Foundation territory, forces an audit, uses the media attention to paint it as a scandal. She stopped pacing. The board's already nervous about appearances. If he proves I use corporate resources for personal reasons, they could remove you as CEO. She nodded. Hayes Technologies is my life's work, Marcus. Everything I built from that garage in Queens. Then I'll sign. He reached for a pen. We knew this couldn't last. No. Alexandra snatched the documents away. That's what Richard expects. It's what he did with the foundation, used my own ethics against me until I walked away. A knock interrupted them. Claire entered looking grave. Miss Hayes, the board's calling an emergency session. Richard's gone public with allegations about misappropriated resources. Alexandra's face hardened. Of course he has. There's more. Claire hesitated. He submitted a proposal to absorb Hayes Technologies' healthcare division into the foundation. A streamlining of charitable initiatives. Marcus stood. He's not just after the clinic. He's after your whole company. Using me as the weapon. Alexandra touched the takeover documents. Our friendship becomes proof I'm too emotionally involved to lead. Ms. Hayes. Claire's voice was gentle. The share price is dropping. Major. Investors are calling. Marcus watched Alexandra transform, shoulders squaring, chin lifting, corporate armor sliding into place. But this time, he saw the cost of that transformation in her eyes. What do you need me to do? He asked quietly. She turned to him, conflict clear on her face. Distance. Public. Verifiable distance. Show the board that Richard's allegations are unfounded. Shut down the clinic. Temporarily transfer leadership. Let the foundation audit everything. She touched his arm. Just until I handle Richard. And us? The question hung between them, heavy with unspoken feelings. Alexandra's hand dropped. There can't be an us. Not if I want to save the company. Alex, I'm not just fighting for myself, she cut in. Hayes Technologies Healthcare Division serves millions. The foundation would gut it, turn it into tax write-offs and vanity projects. Through the window they could see patients still arriving, people who needed help, who trusted the clinic. Trusted them. There's another way. Marcus picked up the takeover documents. Richard's not the only one who can go public. What do you mean? I mean, I have 3 years of documentation. Every patient we turned away from hospitals, every veteran denied care, every foundation initiative that never materialized. He met her eyes. Still have those Queen's rules. A slow smile spread across Alexandra's face. Richard thinks he's fighting corporate battles. But this isn't about corporations. Marcus gestured to the waiting room. It's about people. Alexandra turned to Claire. Get me everything on the foundation's financials. And call my father's old lawyer in Queens. The one who handled the garage startup. Claire was already typing. The one who knows how to fight dirty. Alexandra's smile turned sharp. Richard wants to play hardball? Let's show him how we do. It in Queens. Marcus watched her come alive with purpose, the corporate mask falling away to reveal the fighter underneath. You could lose everything. No. She took his hand, the gesture decisive. Losing everything would be letting Richard win, letting him turn what we've built here into another hollow charity scheme. Claire cleared her throat. The board's waiting. Let them wait. Alexandra squared her shoulders. First, we have patients to treat. Marcus felt the weight of the takeover documents, the pressure of Richard's threats, the watching eyes of the board. But stronger than all of that was the certainty in Alexandra's grip, the fire in her eyes that reminded him of their first meeting when a woman in torn designer clothes had refused to let circumstance define her. Ready to save the world, Dr. Stone, he smiled. Lead the way, Ms. Hayes. The boardroom fell silent as Alexandra placed her resignation letter on the polished table. 14 members stared at the single page that could end her career. Richard's smirk flickered at the head of the table. Before you vote on the foundation's proposal, she said, I want to show you something. She opened her laptop, connected it to the display screen. Pictures filled the wall. The clinic's patients, before and after stories, lives transformed. Data scrolled beneath each image. Cost, analyses, success rates, comparison charts with traditional hospitals. This isn't about me and Marcus Stone, she continued. It's about them, real people the foundation was supposed to help. Richard's smirk faded. Alexandra, the board isn't interested in your personal charity project. 342. She cut him off. That's how many veterans received care last month alone, care they couldn't get anywhere else. She clicked to the next slide. And here's why. Financial documents appeared. The foundation's tax records, grant allocations, administrative expenses. Richard stood abruptly. This is privileged information. Public record, actually. She met his eyes. My father's old lawyer was very thorough. Remember him? The one who helped me start Hayes Technologies in that Queen's garage? More documents filled the screen. Board members leaned forward, frowning at the numbers. 70% of foundation grants going to shell companies. Alexandra's voice was steel. Companies that mysteriously share addresses with your personal investments, Richard. You're out of line. No. She turned to face him fully. I was out of line when I let you take the foundation, when I chose corporate politics over actual help for actual people. She gestured to her resignation letter. I won't make that mistake again. The boardroom doors opened. Marcus entered, followed by a stream of people, clinic patients, veterans, families, real faces to match the data on screen. Ladies and gentlemen, Alexandra addressed the board, meet your stakeholders. Not shareholders, stakeholders. The people whose lives our technology affects. Jimmy stepped forward, no longer wheezing thanks to the clinic's care. Dr. Stone and Ms. Hayes saved my life, not with fancy technology, but by being there, by caring. Others shared stories. Diabetics who'd received monitoring devices, children given access to telemedicine, veterans connected to mental health services. Richard's face grew darker with each testimony. This is unprecedented, he sputtered. You can't bring these people into a board meeting. Actually, Claire spoke from the doorway. As majority shareholder, Ms. Hayes can invite anyone she chooses to witness this vote. Alexandra picked up her resignation letter. You have a choice. Accept my leadership and our new direction, or I walk. Take my shares to a new company built on the clinic's model. You'd throw away everything. Richard's voice rose. For him, for these, for the girl from Queens who believed technology could help people like her father. She locked eyes with Marcus. For the soldier who taught me that real change happens one person at a time. The board chairman cleared his throat. Ms. Hayes, while these allegations about the foundation are concerning, the appearance of impropriety is nothing compared to the reality of lives saved. She placed a new document on the table. My counter-proposal. Hayes Technologies absorbs the clinic's model, expands it nationwide. Real healthcare, real impact. Richard laughed sharply. The board will never. I vote yes. The words came from the oldest board member. My brother's a vet. Haven't seen him since he came back broken. Maybe if something like this existed. Yes. Another member raised her hand. My district needs this. The votes came quickly after that. Richard watched his power crumble as hands rose one by one. Alexandra felt Marcus's presence behind her, solid and sure. She turned to him as the final vote was counted. Still want to save the world, Dr. Stone? He smiled. As long as we do it your way, Ms. Hayes. The Queen's way. Richard stormed out, already on his phone to his lawyers. But Alexandra barely noticed. She was watching her board members mingle with clinic patients, seeing the moment corporate walls crumbled before real human connection. Her resignation letter lay forgotten on the table, unneeded now. She'd chosen love over empire, only to find they weren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes saving an empire meant remembering why you built it in the first place. The transcript of their first joint interview lay between them on the clinic's desk, marked up with Claire's suggested talking points. In 30 minutes, they would face the national media together. No more hiding, no more speculation. Ready for this? Alexandra asked, watching Marcus adjust his tie. She'd offered to buy him a new suit, but he'd insisted on wearing his old service dress blues, cleaned and pressed. Combat was easier, he admitted. At least there I knew who was shooting at me. Outside, the media circus was in full swing. News vans lined the street, reporters fighting for the best camera angles. The story was irresistible. Tech billionaire. and homeless veteran unite to revolutionize healthcare, expose corruption, and maybe find love along the way. We stick to the truth, Alexandra said, reviewing their notes. No manufactured story, no corporate spin. The whole truth? Marcus raised an eyebrow. About us. Before she could answer, Jimmy burst in through the back door. You've got to see this. They followed him to the clinic's waiting room. Every seat was filled, not with reporters, but with their regular patients. Veterans in pressed uniforms, families they'd helped, people whose lives they'd touched. A hand-painted banner stretched across the wall. Our heroes. Thought you might want some friendly faces out there, Jimmy grinned. We've got your backs. Alexandra touched Marcus's arm, feeling him steady beside her. This was their real story, not the fairy tale the media wanted, but something better, something true. The interview setup was simple. 2 chairs in the clinic's main room, their community as backdrop. The chosen reporter, Susan Chen from National Daily, had a reputation for substance over sensationalism. 3 minutes, Claire called. Marcus took Alexandra's hand. Last chance to back out. She squeezed his fingers. Not a chance. The cameras rolled. Susan Chen dove straight in. Ms. Hayes, you've just announced a revolutionary expansion of community healthcare initiatives while simultaneously exposing corruption in one of the city's largest charitable foundations. What prompted this bold move? Alexandra looked at Marcus, then at their joined hands. Truth, she said simply. Something I rediscovered when a homeless veteran saved my life and asked for nothing in return. Dr. Stone, your medical license was reinstated last week. How does it feel to go from providing street medicine to heading a nationwide healthcare initiative? The medicine hasn't changed, Marcus replied. Just the scale. Every person deserves care with dignity, whether they can pay or not. The questions continued, probing their partnership, the clinic's success, the foundation's collapse. But the transcript's most quoted exchange came near the end. The public is fascinated by your relationship, Susan pressed. Is this a romance, a business partnership, or something else? Alexandra and Marcus exchanged glances. This was the moment they'd prepared for, but rehearsed answers felt wrong. It's a choice, Alexandra said finally. Every day we choose to fight for what matters. Sometimes that means facing down corporate boards. Sometimes it means treating patients others have forgotten. And sometimes, she smiled at Marcus, sometimes it means letting someone see past your walls and remind you why you started fighting in the first place. Dr. Stone, Marcus's military bearing softened. When I was on the streets, I learned that family isn't about where you live or what you own. It's about who stands with you when the world turns its back. He looked at their gathered community. Alexandra didn't just help me. She helped me help others. That's better than any fairy tale romance. But is it romance? Alexandra laughed, a genuine sound that made headlines the next day. We're writing our own story, she said. One patient, one clinic, one day at a time. The interview ended, but their community burst into applause. Jimmy led a standing ovation that the cameras couldn't ignore. Real people celebrating real change. Later, reviewing the transcript, Claire circled their unscripted moments in red. This will go viral, she warned. The board will have to accept that their CEO is human. Alexandra finished. Besides, our stock is up 20% since the foundation expose. Turns out, integrity is good for business. Marcus watched their patients leave, each one stopping to express support. Think they'll let us get back to work now? The media? Never. Alexandra moved closer. But we're good at impossible missions. Speaking of impossible, he pulled out an old piece of paper. Her original note from weeks ago, signed Alex from Queens. You kept it? Reminded me that sometimes the most important things aren't in official transcripts or press releases. He smiled. They're in the moments between the stories. Alexandra took the note, remembering the girl who'd written it. Scared of trusting, scared of feeling. That girl seemed very far away now. Ready to write the next chapter, Dr. Stone? His answer was a kiss, caught by distant cameras but meant only for her. Their story wasn't perfect, wasn't following any script, but it was theirs, real, messy, and true. The new Foundations Incorporation papers sat before them, still warm from the printer. The Stone Hayes Initiative for Community Health Care. Alexandra had insisted his name come first, despite his protests. "It's not about hierarchy," she'd said. "It's about remembering where this started, with a soldier who never stopped serving." Now they sat in her office, finalizing the details of their vision. The city sparkled beyond her windows, but their focus was on the maps spread across her desk, each marking planned clinic locations. "The VA approved our pilot program," Marcus said, highlighting another site. "5 more veteran medical professionals reinstated this week. And the mobile units?" He pulled up the specs on his tablet. "First 10 roll out next month, full medical facilities, satellite uplink to Hayes Tech's diagnostic AI, solar power backup." Alexandra smiled at his enthusiasm. The man who'd once carried medical supplies in a backpack now commanded a fleet of cutting-edge mobile clinics. But he still spent every Tuesday treating patients himself, refusing to let administration separate him from the work that mattered. The board's quarterly review came in. She handed him a report. "Our social impact initiative has increased market share by 30%. Turns out doing good is good business. Richard must love that. Richard's too busy with his legal troubles to care." She touched the Foundation papers. The old Foundation's audit revealed everything. His replacement board is actually focusing on real charitable work now. Through the glass walls, they could see their team at work. Claire coordinating with clinic administrators, Jimmy running the veteran outreach program he'd helped design, doctors and tech specialists collaborating on new healthcare solutions. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real," Marcus admitted. "A year ago I was sleeping in alleys. A year ago I was sleepwalking through board meetings." Alexandra moved to stand beside him. "We saved each other." He pulled her closer. "We saved ourselves, then figured out how to save others." The Foundation documents outlined their mission, integrating cutting-edge technology with community-based care, ensuring no one fell through society's cracks. Every clause reflected their journey, his practical experience, her technological innovation, their shared commitment to real change. Dr. Stone, an intern, knocked tentatively. "The new medical team is ready for orientation." They found the conference room filled with faces they recognized from the streets. Veterans, former patients, community leaders, people whose lives they'd touched now trained to touch others. "Welcome to the initiative," Marcus began. "You're here because you understand what we're fighting for, not just healthcare, but dignity, not just treatment, but transformation." Alexandra watched him speak, seeing the leader he'd always been beneath the circumstances that had hidden him. His military bearing now served a different mission, his medical skills multiplied through those he trained. "Ms. Hayes," one of the new doctors raised her hand. "Will we have access to the AI diagnostic systems?" "You'll have everything you need," Alexandra assured them. "But remember, technology is just a tool. The real healing happens through human connection." The orientation continued, but Alexandra's mind wandered to their next project. She opened her tablet, showing Marcus the preliminary plans. A medical school. His eyes widened at the blueprints. For non-traditional students, veterans, career changers, people with real-world experience. She highlighted the features: full scholarships, practical training, community focus. Building a new generation of healthcare providers who understand the streets because they've walked them. Marcus stared at the plans, emotion crossing his face. This could change everything. It already has. She took his hand. "Look around. Every person in this room represents dozens more they'll help, and those people will help others." The Foundation papers seemed to glow with possibility. Not just a legal document, but a promise to each other, to their community, to the future. They were building together. "There's one more thing," Alexandra pulled out a small box. "I had these made." Inside lay two simple pins, the initiative's logo rendered in brushed steel, not gold, not flashy, but sturdy and real, like their commitment to service. "For the original team," she said softly, pinning one to his collar. Marcus touched the pin, then pulled her into a kiss that made their new staff whoop and applaud. They broke apart laughing, no longer concerned about professional distance or public perception. "Ready to change the world, Ms. Hayes?" "Already." "You're doing it, Dr. Stone." She straightened his pin. "One life at a time." The foundation papers witnessed their moment, another milestone in a journey that had started with a random act of courage in a dark alley. But there was nothing random about where it had led them, or the future they were building together. 1 year to the day after their first encounter, Marcus stood in the alley where it all began. The new medical backpack at his feet was military grade, stocked with supplies for his weekly street rounds. Some habits wouldn't change, no matter how successful the initiative became. "I thought I'd find you here," Alexandra's voice echoed off the familiar brick walls. She'd walked from her office, wearing the same kind of practical clothes she'd worn that rainy night, just finishing. "My rounds." He shouldered the backpack, lighter than his old one, but carrying so much more. "Remembering. The dogs. The woman who wouldn't let me disappear." She moved closer, taking in the transformed alley. No more shadows hiding desperate needs. The initiative's mobile clinic was parked at the corner, staffed by graduates of their first training program. Jimmy's voice carried from inside, teaching new outreach workers his tried-and-true approach. "Hard to believe this is where we started," Alexandra mused. "Me in my designer clothes, you with your shredded backpack, both of us lost in our own ways." Through the clinic's windows, they could see lives being changed. Veterans receiving care, families finding hope, medical students learning to serve with compassion. Every face represented countless others, touched by the ripples of one moment of courage. "The board approved the medical school funding," Alexandra said. "Construction starts next month." "And Richard agreed to a settlement. The old foundations. Assets will fund scholarships for homeless veterans entering healthcare." She smiled. "Seems fitting." Marcus adjusted his backpack, now bearing the initiative's logo alongside his medical insignia. "Claire says our story's being taught in business schools. How social impact drives corporate success. If they only knew." Alexandra touched his arm. "It was never about corporate success." "No," he agreed. "It was about a soldier who couldn't stop being a medic, and a girl from Queens who remembered why she started building things." They walked together toward the mobile clinic, where Jimmy was wrapping up his training session. The new outreach workers snapped to attention when they saw Marcus. Most were veterans themselves, drawn to serve in a different way. "At ease," he said automatically, making Alexandra hide a smile. "Dr. Stone," one of the trainees, stepped forward. "We found someone who needs help. Won't go to hospitals or shelters." Marcus and Alexandra exchanged glances. How many times had they lived this moment from the other side? "Show me," Marcus said, adjusting his backpack. They found the man 3 blocks away, huddled in a doorway. A veteran, like so many others, carrying wounds visible and invisible. Marcus knelt beside him, not as a CEO or program director, but as what he'd always been, a medic who couldn't walk away. "I'm Dr. Stone," he said gently. "I can help." The man looked up warily, then noticed Alexandra standing back, giving them space. "You're them, aren't you? From the news?" "We're just people who understand," Alexandra said. "Sometimes everyone needs a helping hand." Later, after ensuring the man was safely settled in the clinic's care program, they walked back to the alley. The sun was setting, painting the city. In the same golden light that had witnessed their first meeting. "You still carry the backpack," Alexandra observed. "Even with all our resources, all our clinics." "Some people won't come to clinics," Marcus said. "Sometimes help has to find them where they are. Like it found us." He smiled, remembering rain and dogs and torn designer clothes. "Like it found us." The mobile clinic's lights cast a warm glow as evening settled. Inside, their team worked with the quiet efficiency of people who knew their purpose. Outside, the city hummed with millions of stories waiting to intersect. "I have something for you," Alexandra said, pulling out an envelope. Inside was a photograph, not of them, but of the alley as it had been a year ago. Dark, desperate, full of shadows. Beside it was a picture of the same space now, transformed by purpose and possibility. "To remind us," she said softly, "every place can be changed, every life can be saved, including our own, especially our own." Marcus touched his backpack, feeling the weight of all it represented, past and present, loss and redemption, the endless cycle of helping and being helped. Alexandra leaned into him, successful CEO and Queen's mechanic's daughter, both and neither, and something entirely new. The last light caught the initiative's logo on his bag, making it gleam like a beacon. Around them, the city prepared for night, full of people needing help and people learning to give it. Their story had become bigger than themselves, spreading, hope like ripples in a pond. "Ready for tomorrow's rounds, Dr. Stone?" He kissed her softly, there in the alley where it all began. "Lead the way, Ms. Hayes, lead the way."